Macro Detectors is the fastest growing manufacturer in the industry, and for good reason. Many detectorists, including Mike Hare, call us the most innovative, but we are so much more than that. We listen to and care about our customers. We also offer a wide range of detectors to fit all of your needs. Come check out all of our products today at www.noctadetectors.com. Detectors for everyone, everywhere, a lifetime.
Welcome to the All Metal Mode podcast with your host, Michael Hare. Tune in every Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern with co-host Gypsy Jules, and every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern with Matt Hoffman as we talk to guests, discuss metal detectors, equipment, and everything treasure related. Feel free to join in the discussion in the chat room during the show, and please, if you like what you hear, we'd appreciate you taking a moment, hit that like button, and share the link with your friends. We hope you enjoy the show. The All Metal Mode podcast starts right now.
Hello, everybody. This is Mike here, and you're listening to the All Metal Mode podcast with my very special co-host, Mr. Dorian. Oh boy, I'm already off to a good start here. You can find us on Facebook at All Metal Mode, as well as All Metal Mode Podcast UK. All Metal Mode is every Monday and Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and All Metal Mode UK is every Thursday at 8 p.m. GMT time or 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The latest issue, August issue of Dirt Digest magazine is now available. It's a free online magazine. You can check us out at dirtdigestmagazine.com. We're always looking for articles. If you got something in mind, reach out to me, mhare@dirtdigestmagazine.com. You can find me on Facebook. However, I don't care how you get a hold of me. If you got an article, need help, have an idea for an article, reach out to me. We'd love to have it. We're always looking for submissions. If you go to dirtdigestmagazine.com, look for Treasure Room Submissions, I believe, is what it's under. And if you found something cool, it doesn't even have to be recent. You know, we'd like, if you did find it months or years ago, please state that. But you upload a picture or two or three, however many, and then just give us a brief description, and we'll get it published in the first chance we get. So there you go. And please help spread the word about the All Metal Mode podcast. Don't forget, you can go to Spreaker. You can listen live to join in chat. Once you start the show, a rectangle bar pops up along the bottom. Click on that bar, and once you're there, you'll see a little chat bubble pop up, and you can join us in chat. You can go to Spreaker anytime and listen to the show. You can also download it from Spreaker and listen to it at your convenience while you're on the road or however you'd like. You can also find us on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, and some other affiliates. So tonight we're just gonna kind of got some different things we're gonna discuss, and we don't have a guest, but how you doing, Mr. Cook?
Hey, cut out the Mr. stuff there, bud. I demand no respect.
Whatever. Well, you know,
Well,
I see George Kinsey in the room, and I'm talking to you, so all I can think about is respect.
Well, appreciate that. We old geezers do appreciate that, but really, I just really prefer just to be Dorian. It's a tough name to live with, but I got stuck with it. I'm a junior, and anyway, made it this far, so maybe we'll be able to handle the rest of the way. Thankfully, you will never know the nickname I carried as a child. That way, I won't have to kill you.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, we kind of wanted to talk to the group tonight about a subject called paying your dues, and what we're talking about is that there are many different aspects of metal detecting. I think we all, have an idea of that. Probably some of you have never even considered. Of course, most all of us are familiar with coin and relic hunting and even nugget hunting. And then there's ring and water hunting. And it just goes on and on, really. There's about, 20 or 30 different ways a metal detector can be used to find treasures of various kind. Because whether you're talking relics or coins, in the end, folks, we're all treasure hunters. Everybody in the world is, in a way, one way or another, hunting treasure, whether they realize it or not. So what we like to do, Mike and I want to talk about just some of the basics of some of these different aspects of metal detecting, because a person can be exceptionally good in one and be lousy in another. And I'd like to start out with a true story, that occurred while I was working for Charles Garrett back in the 70s as his marketing director. I think you'll see the lesson in it. I had been a Garrett dealer before I was asked by Charles Garrett to take over that position. He and I actually hunted Spanish treasure together out in West Texas, and I always treasure the time I got to spend with him. He was certainly one of the great figures in the metal detector industry and its development. But anyway, what I did for him, basically, I was in charge of the dealer program. It was my responsibility to set up a dealer network in the United States to sell our detectors. And I also was responsible for designing and placing our advertising. And I did a lot of public relations work. And I was a field tester. Happened to be, during my time there in the late 70s, the only marketing person in the United States in the metal detector industry who actually used metal detectors. So the dealers liked that real well. They felt like they were talking to one of their own. And anyway, I don't want to say I got stuck, but let's say when Charlie Garrett's personal treasure hunting friends would come to town, I would be asked to take them out on their first ever Civil War relic hunt. And some of these guys were well known. They'd been in the magazines, many magazine covers, written books about having found Spanish treasures and so on. And in this particular story, two of these guys who were treasure hunting partners came to visit us from way out in California. And they'd never, of course, been on a Civil War relic hunt, but they were very well publicized and had been very successful in their chosen field of hunting Spanish treasures that had been buried or sealed up in old mines, things like that. So Mr. Garrett asked me if I would take them relic hunting, and so I took them to Arkansas to a battlefield called Jenkins Ferry and picked up two new Garrett Deep Seeker metal detectors out from the stockroom before we left for them to use, and I had my own that I brought. Well, Mike, we got to the site, and I took them in to an area of the battlefield that I'd always been successful in hunting. And we went in about 8:30 that morning, and we started hunting. All three of us are using the same detector with a big old 14-inch coil on it because it was a very sandy loam in a river bottom, and the water was fought in knee-deep water the battle was fought in knee-deep water because the river had flooded. And so the Benny balls and artifacts got tromped and pushed down into the mud and the loose soil very deep. So it was easy to dig, but, we measured minis out of there at 23.5 inches. Well, anyway, we started hunting, and these guys were absolutely, totally confident that they were going to come out with, all kinds of relics. So we started hunting this area, and they're not finding anything. And I'm popping a mini ball here and there, pretty regular. And about a half hour into the hunt, they're starting to whine and complain. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, you've taken us to a worked out spot. I said, well, I'm digging mini balls. And, they didn't know what to say at first, but about another hour, and it's, okay, you got a souped up detector. You worked for the Garrett factory, so the techs in the back have souped your detector up, and it goes deeper than ours. Well, I just took my detector, handed it to the chief complainer, and took his detector and went on hunting. I kept finding mini balls. They didn't. And I told them, I said, now, your best finds, I said, you guys have got to get used to this kind of hunting because you've never done this before. And they didn't believe that for an instant. They just thought they were going to go in there and they were going to do just as good as I did. And it was killing their egos because, here they had maybe one or two mini balls between them. And I already had, I was pushing 30 to 40 already. So the day wore on and the complaints got worse. And they thought of every excuse in the world as to why that they weren't doing as good as I was. So I told them, I said, your best finds are going to come about 3 to 5 o'clock this afternoon as you get used to this type of hunting, get used to the site. Well, unbeknownst to them, we were in deep woods, but I knew my way around. I'd hunted that battlefield many times. And so I took them in a big circle. And Mike, we got back to the same exact area I started them in about 3 o'clock. And by this time, they're starting to find mini balls. And they're hitting them pretty regular. And I'm still hitting them. I'm hitting them even better than I did when I started out, because the more, when you go on a hunt and you haven't hunted in a while, you don't get your edge until after you've been on the field for 4 or 5 hours. So I'm getting hot, as far as finding these things. And they're beginning to find them because they're beginning to understand what the signals sound like and so on.
Right.
So one of them says to me, at the end of the day, between them, they've got about 30 mini balls, and I had nearly 100. And one of them says to me, how come you saved the best place for last? I said, look at that tree over there. They looked at that tree where I'd taken my big Bowie knife and I'd put a couple of notches in the bark that were obviously fresh. I said, I did that this morning. This is where we started this morning, where you guys said was worked out, and there wasn't anything here to find, and you've been digging mini balls for the last 3 hours here. Oh, that shut them up. They didn't know what to say to that.
That's fine.
But it illustrates the point, you see. They may have been great. They may have been 10 times better than me at finding Spanish treasure.
Right.
But they were on my turf. They were in my backyard. And this was a discipline of metal detecting that I understood a whole lot better than they did. I had paid my dues in relic hunting already. They had not, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it's a great topic. I remember years back when I thought, I'll go water hunting, and I knew my detector in and out. I thought it would just be a really easy transition. Well, let me tell you, there's a lot of different skills than I was used to. Number one was standing in the water, and I was at a freshwater lake, but you still get waves from boats and stuff about knock you down, and how to dig, how to pinpoint with your foot and your there's so much skill that goes in that to learn that, to do that properly. I'm still by no means a water hunter, and there's differences. I've never even been to the ocean. Dorian, I've never seen the ocean, believe it or not. But one of the things I want to do this year is go down to Galveston and do some detecting. I think Gypsy and I have been talking about it, and we're going to do it. And then, something happens, I can't make it, then she's got something happens, but we're going to do it this year. And, talking to her about it, well, there's a lot of things I didn't know about that, even though I feel pretty confident and pretty good at freshwater lakes now, there's a big difference, and some of it will carry over. I mean, one of the things I learned real quick was, and people do it different, you know, when you're on land and you pinpoint and I keep an eye on where I'm going to stick my shovel in. I move my coil and stick my hand digger shovel in, depending on where I'm hunting. Well, when you're in the water, you can't see. So what I learned to do was put my foot at the back of my coil, move my coil, and then get my scoop right in front of my foot and do it like that. I mean, but that took time to learn, and you're balancing. You're kind of you're not balancing at different times you are on one foot and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot to learn, and there's so many different aspects of this hobby.
Yeah, this is a perfect example. I mean, you just gave us a perfect example of what I'm talking about. And you were already an accomplished coin hunter. You could go into a field and be totally comfortable and right at home, and you knew exactly what you were doing, right?
Right.
But like you said, suddenly you're on new turf. I got to meet, as in my work with Garrett, I got to meet a lot of the top hunters in these different disciplines, and I got invitations to go hunt with them. You know, for example, I got an invitation to go dredge gold on Bull Creek in Mariposa County, California, right in the 49er country. And I got to end up spending all day long in a pool of water up to my waist that was like 40 degrees, and I came out totally numb from the waist down. And we used a 2-inch dredge and moved a whole lot of rocks out of that hole. And we came up for two of us for a really hard 8-hour day's work of dredging. We came up at the time with about $90 worth of free gold to split between us.
Wow.
So, but that was my first experience. And he told me, he says, this is really good for a first timer. But I realized that the guys that dredge gold, even though they're not using a metal detector in a way, a dredge is a metal detector. You know, it gets down in there and gets the gold out of those crevices. It only detects, it recovers. But those guys that consistently do well and make, the big bucks, they do it because they are very skilled and they have learned all the ins and outs. They know the dangers. They know where it's safe. They know where's the best places to hunt this gold and so on. But you get into, for example, we're coin hunters. I started out coin hunting. I guess I found somewhere between 170 and 175,000 coins. And there are people that are listening to me right now that could say, well, I found over 500,000. And I would say, congratulations. You've done a lot more coin hunting than I have, probably. Because my time's been divided between coin hunting, relic hunting, nugget prospecting, treasure cache hunting. I've done quite a bit of that. I actually hunted treasure caches for 2 years professionally. That's all I did. That was my work. So I've been exposed to a lot of these different disciplines, and I'm fairly competent in several of them. But, we have a couple of guys in our group, Ronnie Heyer and Jim Pugh. These guys are kings of the been there, done that club. And when it comes to water hunting, if I were to go out with them, I would feel like a fish out of water, because they know all the ins and outs and tricks, having done it for, over 40 years. So that's fine, though. That's the kind of people, see, if you want to learn that discipline, if you get an interest, say, I really want to water hunt, you need to hook up with guys like that. And don't expect to keep up with them, because you're not going to be able to. They're going to come out with finds that'll make you drool, but that's the first step towards your becoming competent in that discipline. That's when you start paying your dues. And when you got them all paid in terms of experience, and you've been through dry runs and failures, and then finally you start seeing gold come out of the water, it's going to be, you're going to say, wow, this was worth it. So I really want to encourage the newer people, don't get discouraged if whatever discipline you're choosing, whether it's coin hunting, relic hunting, a combination, don't get discouraged if you're not burning the ground up right now or right at first. Hang in there and pay your dues. Get hours on your machine. Learn that machine till it's like an extension of your body. Don't be trading machines every 3 or 4 months because you think this company over here is. Hang on a minute. I am outside, and here comes out of nowhere a major rainstorm. Folks, I got to take a minute.
We can't hear you, Dorian.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, there you are.
All right, I've got a rainstorm that just blew in out of nowhere. Wasn't expecting it, and I got to get my computer and get in the house with it. So give me about a minute here.
Okay. Yep. No problem. No problem. But yeah, I think this leads into another great topic. If you've been in the hobby long, you've seen people called out for all their great finds and stuff, and or how many of something they find. And I'll give you a great example. I know some guys that'll find several hundred silver coins a year. I haven't seen it much in the last few years, and people that are new to the hobby or don't have the equipment or don't know their equipment, we'll oftentimes call those people out because they do really good. Well, there are people in this hobby that put in the time, the effort, they know their detector, they know where to detect, and they go out and do it. I know, although I live in Texas now, we've had some Ohio people that have been called out, even people that I've hunted with because they found 500 plus silver coins in a year. Well, it's very doable. Have I ever done it? No. When the crops are out, that's where you'll find me. But I've gotten well over 100, in just the summer. And, that's not my style of hunting even. But if you know your detector, but, there's guys out there that are getting out almost every single day after work and weekends and hitting it hard for the whole year several times a week. And if you're new to the hobby or you're now, at the same time, some people do need called out. I mean, there are people faking finds. It's really become quite an issue in our hobby, but just because you're not finding the same thing and somebody else is, don't always doubt them. I remember when the explorers were starting to get a little, the Mine Lab explorers were starting to get a little following here in the United States. And I was part of one. I was part of one forum at the time that I liked, spent a lot of time there, and these guys using these explorers. And at the time, I remember 2 people in this forum had explorers. I don't even remember which one. I think it was past the XS because, yeah. Well, anyhow. My point is they started posting all these great finds and all these coins and stuff, and they were just outright being called liars. And I can tell you, although it's far from perfect, the Explorer line, the E-Track, those are some of the best detectors for deep silver coins that I've ever used. And, I've used quite a few different detectors. I mean, they've got their flaws in a lot of different areas and stuff, and they are heavy. Don't get me wrong, they're great detectors, but boy, do they sniff out that silver like nothing I've ever used, and they'll ID them properly and at depth and everything else. So, I seen these poor guys just getting beat up left and right. Those are the people you want to talk to, associate with, just like myself. Dorian has hooked me up with some other people that have been in the hobby a long time. Just because I've been at it 20 years doesn't mean I know anything. These guys like Dorian and some of the other guys he's hooked me up with, George Kinsey. I've always got time to talk to George. You know, George is wealth of information. I feel like a lot of egos get involved in this hobby. As a matter of fact, I seen something today, a post, and I'm not gonna talk about it, but I thought, wow, what an ego, you know, and it made me think of George, because George just posted in the All Metal Mode Facebook group some gold coins he's found, and his button collection is incredible. And he posted a table with just heaping with buttons and relics and stuff. I mean, you know, those are the people I wanna talk to and get advice from and learn from. And, you know, I see these people that have been in the hobby a hot minute that think they're experts and, you know, would never give old George a minute. Well, that's okay. I'll learn from him and I'll pass it on to the right people. You know, same with Dorian and some of the other people he's put me in touch with that, you know, I've already learned so much from these guys. And, you know, not only do I love learning, I love sharing what I've learned. But do we have you back, Dorian?
Oh yeah, I'm back. I'm in the house, safely out of the rain here now. Yeah, you know, I'm in complete agreement with what you're saying there. You know, just to illustrate a case of my own ignorance, I was down in Florida, and I thought, oh boy, I'm going to get to hunt the beaches. It was really the first time, and I went to places. I went to, for example, a little swimming beach near Sebastian Inlet. That's downwind from Cape Canaveral, some miles on the coast, and I went out on the beach, and you could see, you know, thousands of footprints in the sand, and I was there early in the morning. There wasn't anybody there, but you could tell they had a really busy weekend. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, there's got to be gold necklaces and earrings and rings and stuff out here. You know, this is going to be good. And I didn't find anything but a couple of memorial pennies. And I thought, you know, hey, I mean, if I can find coins, I can find ring. I mean, I found a fair amount of pieces of jewelry while I was coin hunting. So why can't I do any good on the beach? So I called a guy who was one of our Garrett dealers up in New Jersey, and he worked the boardwalk, and he found an average of 2,000 gold and silver rings a year. So I told him the situation. He said, you don't understand the waves. I said, what do you mean? He says, the waves don't come straight in. He says, they come in at an angle. He says, you needed to be down the beach in the direction that the waves are coming in. He says, because that's where, as the tide goes up and down, that's where the stuff ends up. And I thought, are you kidding me? Are you gone down where? Pardon?
You're kind of going in and out a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm getting a little far away from my Wi-Fi router here. I was that close. I mean, I was within, 100 feet or so of doing well, but my ignorance caused me not to realize that I should have been concentrating down there on the section nobody's using, because that's where the coins end up because of the wave action. And they concentrate in troughs. That was an amazing thing to discover. We got on the beach right after one of the hurricanes. I was there 4 days after the hurricane stopped. And I was hoping to get, my first Spanish coin on the beach. And I did get one Spanish coin, one 2 real cob coin, right at the edge of a cut where the waves had cut the side of a sand dune out. I got that. But we're working the beach, my buddy and I, we're both really, what we consider to be competent hunters at that point, with thousands of hours of detecting time under our belt, not getting anything up high, not getting anything down low towards the water. And suddenly start hitting silver coins, and there was a strip about 120 feet long, and it was 4 feet wide, and it was full of old coins dating back to the early 1900s. We got silver halves, silver quarters stuff out of there. Couldn't believe it. All the pennies were wheats, old wheats. And if you went, anywhere outside of that 4 foot wide, 120 foot long strip, you got no signals. You got nothing. All of these coins had been concentrated there. And a local hunter there told me that back in the early 1900s, that had been a swimming beach for black people, before, where we legally didn't have segregation, but actually we did. And so these were all coins that had been lost back in the 1900s. And this hurricane that had come through had concentrated all of them in this one strip, 4 feet wide and about 120 feet long. So now I know that trick. Now when I go on the beach after a hurricane, if I'm near swimming beaches and stuff, I know what to expect, and where I'm likely to make the best finds. But you see, being ignorant of that, you could have been on that beach all day and never found a single thing.
Right.
So it's not, so often, I keep coming back to this 80-20 rule, Mike. There's so much of it is the operator and not the machine. I'm all for everybody learning their machines thoroughly. And like I said, not jumping from machine to machine every 3 or 4 months or 6 months, because you're not going to have time to ever know what any one of those machines actually could do for you if you do that. I change detectors about once every 3 to 4 years on the average, as far as what I'm hunting with. So I learn what my detectors will do, and then I try to put those detectors on the best spots. And see, the detector, excuse me.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, just one more comment. The detector can't decide where the best place to hunt is. I have to decide that. Mm-hmm. So no matter how good my detector is, no matter how well I know it, I have to make good choices on where I choose to swing that detector.
Agree. Now, I want to say something here. The flip side of what you're saying is there's so many people that have one detector and they try to do everything with it. And I have yet to find the perfect detector. And let's just say, relic hunting in Ohio, because I know it very well. Metal detecting out in the fields where a house was that's been torn down 100 plus years. Okay. There's no one perfect detector for that. Even when the ground's the same, I mean, some of them have more iron, some of them have some modern trash in them, some of them have moderate modern trash, some of them were tore down a little bit later enough where there's plumbing or whatever. And I think the big problem is I am a big fan of picking the right tool for the right job. You don't go remodel a house with a sledgehammer. You need tools. You need different hammers. You need pliers and adjustable wrenches and probably a socket set even for a darn house. You need levels. You need there's so many different tools, right? Well, the same thing goes. There's no perfect detector that does it all and does it good. In every situation, the problem is so many people don't take the time to learn even the basic settings. It blows my mind when I'm talking to somebody who's been metal detecting 10 years, let's say, and they don't understand the basic functions of a metal detector. It really is surprising to me. It really is. When you're new to the hobby, I understand that. But what I have always done, I hate reading manuals. I'll be the first one to admit it. But when it comes to metal detectors, I enjoy it. And I will read through the manual. I'll play around. I'll swing, put some coils some coins under the detector just to listen to it, just to see what it sounds like, different things. I'll go hunt a site with a lot of signals, and, then I'll come home and I'll start reading up on the book again. And I'll go back out, and I keep doing that until I've mastered it. But what gives me a great start is I know how the basic functions of a detector and how to adjust them and what happens when I adjust them. Now, sometimes each detector is a little different, but overall it's all the same. We've talked about a little bit before on the show. I've got the Rudis, and it has some different things that you won't see on all common detectors. But I could read up on them and instantly understand them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think you increase your odds by understanding your detector, but knowing what tools right for what tools right for the job. I'm a very big fan of that. Now there are some great, there are some great detectors that do it. Oh, that's too funny. We got Tony Kaywood in chat tonight, and he uses a Rudis. I didn't even know you was in here, Tony. Glad to see you. But having the right tool for the right job. I mean, my favorite detectors, let's say my top two, there's other situations I'll run across where I don't want them for that. You know what I mean? I really think every detector is if you've been in it 2-3 years, 5 years, you want to stay in it, is to understand detectors, and then if you want to better yourself, start getting different detectors to use for different jobs. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would have said get one detector and learn it. That would be what I would tell you. Learn one detector really good. The problem is there's no one detector that does it all. Does that make sense?
Yes. However, there are some detectors that do a better job of handling different kinds of hunting than others.
Yes.
The focus that Garrett was always on an all-around, all-purpose detector. In other words, something that you had a good chance of finding what you were looking for, whether you were hunting gold nuggets, coins, Civil War relics, or whatever. And so, but there are, like, if I was going to do nothing but hunt gold nuggets, I would research and buy, based on my research, the best gold hunting nugget detector that I could find. And then I would go about mastering the use of it if that's all I was going to do. I would specialize if that's all I wanted to do. But, in my case, I'm not only involved in relic hunting. Yes, I love Civil War relic hunting, and yes, I've done a lot of it and hope to do a considerable amount more before I go to my great reward. But that being said, last year, I found myself on top of an 11,000-foot mountain in northern Nevada in the Osceola mining district looking for a lost vein of gold for a prospector who owns some claims where it's supposed to be. And I was using my Garrett AT Pro, and it worked fine in those conditions. It handled this extreme mineralization and stuff. We did not find the vein, but what we did for the prospector, the two of us that were working this, was that we narrowed down the areas on his claims where it had to be. In other words, we found some places where it was not, so he won't waste his time looking there anymore. So we helped him at least in that regard. But there's quite a story behind this lost vein, but we'll save that for another day. The point was, though, that was basically a new experience for me. I've hunted gold nuggets with my metal detector, but I've not hunted a lost vein specifically. And what we did was we arranged to meet with a geologist about the same age as myself. I call him Geologist John, and he gave us a one-day class in the geology of vein of gold vein location. And the information that he gave us was awesome. I learned more about geology, the geology of gold, in one day than I've learned in the past 50 years. And I would love to go up to Nevada and spend more time with him because he was that good. And the thing is, like I said, I had to learn things that I never needed for coin hunting or relic hunting or beach hunting and so on.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's great to use your AT Pro to go out there and do that. But if you were going to go out several times a year or spend a lot of time there, the AT Pro wouldn't be your first pick.
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm. There's one particular detector that I hate, but guys love it in the mineralized soil. There's you just gotta find what works for what you want to do, and oftentimes, unless you're hunting the exact same places and the exact same soil, and you don't want to do any other, one detector can do it. But I'm just a big fan. Everybody says learn your one detector and do that. Well, I just don't agree with that. I'm sorry, I don't. It's not. I think you need to learn your detectors. Don't get me wrong. But yeah. I was talking to somebody recently. This kind of brings this up. It really surprises me. He's been detecting 10 years probably. And he was asking me, or he was telling me about an issue he was having. And I knew right away what he needed to do, but he gets in one setting. He doesn't change it. He's been using the same detector now for 7-8 years. And in that 7-8 years, he doesn't know this very simple adjustment he could make that would work at all the sites he's having issues at. So that's what I'm getting at. It just blows me away. I'm sure George can tell stories. George loves detectors and the technology, and I'm sure people reach out to him about them, and it probably blows his mind how clueless some people are that don't understand some of the most basic functions of their detector.
Well, that's always been the case to some degree, and a part of that problem as really, well, actually, the scope of the problem today in this particular era of metal detecting is so huge because we lost our base back at the end of the 70s. We lost the base of dealers in the United States who were avid users. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still some around, but most of the dealers could no longer afford to be dealers because the discount metal detector dealerships, the big ones, put them out of business, to be frank. Mm-hmm. They were advertising detectors cheaper than these poor dealers could buy them from the factory because they were buying in smaller quantities. And the big guys were getting huge discounts because they were buying 1,000 detectors at a time. And it really destroyed our base of dealers who were, they were instructors. They not only sold you a detector, they sold you the hobby. They took you to the parks. They showed you, walked you through hands-on use and got you off to a good start. And when that's done, we saw statistically that 9 out of 10 almost people who bought a metal detector that way would keep on metal detecting. And those who bought by discount, about 9 out of 10 would use them 2 or 3 or 4 hours or go out 2 or 3 times and then would go in the closet and either get sold off later on eBay or whatever. I bought two Fisher detectors, top of the line, that were, one had 2 hours and one had 3 hours on it. And I bought them for less than half price new off of eBay. Mm. You see, because and both of the people that sold them to me said they had bought them from a discount house. So they never had anybody give them any personal instruction. So, it was my gain, but the point is, they have a totally wrong impression of what metal detecting is all about. They just didn't understand, and here we go. You ready, Mike? They didn't understand they needed to pay their dues.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think a lot of people in this day and age with YouTube and everything, they see these people go out and make all these great finds, and I'm going to go out and buy a metal detector and do that. And they it's a whole, talk about shattering dreams. That guy that's been doing it 20 years and finds good stuff on a regular basis, he's paid his dues. And it takes time. You got to learn your detector. You got to know what to look for, where to, there's so much to this hobby, but it can be done easily if you put the work and the time in.
Right. The big thing is what I don't like to see is a beginner throw money, if I can put it this way, throw money at metal detecting in terms of trying to pay huge prices. Let me give you an example. There was a guy that came out, and I won't mention his name. I don't know if he's still in business or not, but he made what was supposed to be an electronic dowsing instrument.
Okay.
And here was this block of plastic with wires going into it, so that you couldn't see the circuit board or get at the circuit board to reverse engineer it, supposedly. And this thing would supposedly find stuff and had antennas sticking out of it. And he was selling these things for $10,000. And people listened to me. I talked to at least a half a dozen of his customers who bought that device for $10,000. Not a one of them ever found any gold or silver or any valuables with it. One of the guys even took a saw and cut that block of plastic with the wires going into it in half and discovered there was absolutely no electronic parts in that block of plastic. The wires just went into it.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Yeah, but people thought, well, for $10,000, it's got to be, the ultimate gold finding machine. Mm-hmm. And it was just basically a really big scam. And guy ended up in all kinds of lawsuits and one thing and another, But anyway, the thing is, it's not how much necessarily your metal detector cost. It's much more about how well you can use that detector and how good a researcher you are and how wisely you choose where you're going to hunt with it. That's all part of paying your dues. And you pay your dues and you're going to do good. Sooner or later, you're going to start doing good. But everybody wants it quick and easy, and everybody tries to bypass this process. Not everybody, but so many try to bypass the process of paying their dues. And they think they can do it by spending $2,000 on a metal detector. And I've given the example, a fellow I hunt with who's not on Facebook or listens to podcasts, so, he'll never hear me say this. But, I rally hunted with him, and he has a $2,000 setup on his metal detector. I have a Garrett AT Pro that retails about $600. I didn't pay that much for it because I traded some information and knowledge to a dealer for it. You folks, you got to understand, for someone who was in the industry and could always get his metal detectors at just absolute cost, it's really hard for me to go out and pay retail for a metal detector.
Right.
So anyway, I try to cut deals on my detectors. But anyway, I have this $600 detector, and we go out, and I routinely find 4 to 5 times more Civil War relics than he does. And it's not because my machine is superior. My use of my machine is superior to his use of his machine. Mm-hmm. And other factors. Give you an example on Civil War bullets, mini balls. On the sites we worked, I take an average of 1 to 3 minutes to recover a mini ball and have it in my pouch. He spends 5 to 15 minutes per mini ball, which means I dig more signals in a day than he does, and therefore I'm going to find more than he does. So he negates whatever advantage he might have with his 2000 metal detector by being sloppy in his recovery work, in his pinpointing and recovery.
Yep, absolutely.
So you see that everything just like recovering your targets, that can be a big factor in how well you do. Let's say you know your metal detector really well, but you dig a hole. You're out in the woods, so you can dig a big hole. So you dig this big hole that's about 12 inches wide and 12 inches deep to recover your target. And you got your hand pinpointer and you're running it around. You say, okay, it's not in the hole. And then you take your hand pinpointer and you run it around the dirt and you can hear it in the dirt. And I've seen guys do this. They, instead of actually putting that tip of that pinpointer around the signal and holding it there and then grabbing a handful of dirt right there and running in front of their coil to see if they got the target, they start taking their fingers and trying to work their way through the dirt to try to spot it with their eyeball. What's the point of a hand pinpointer if you're going to do that?
Okay. Here's the thing. Dorian,
No, seriously.
What's that?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. Something weird was going on. Here's my thing about pinpointers. I went a lot of years without pinpointer, okay? They help tremendously recover your target faster and move on to the next target. Not always. I don't always use it. It isn't the very first thing I pull out, but if I'm going to have any trouble finding that target, I grab my pinpointer. I think you watch these videos and you've probably hung with a couple guys that they pull out their pinpointer and they run it all through the dirt way longer than they need to. I need to know which handful to pick up, put in my hand, and recover the target. I'm telling you, Dorian, from a guy who hunted a lot of years without a pinpointer. Yeah. You there?
I'm not at odds with you on this. I'm saying if you're going to use a hand pinpointer, use it. Pay your dues. Is your equipment, whether it's your shovel, your pinpointer,
right?
Anything to do with your rig, your setup. Recently hunted with a guy, and he had so much gear on him that he was bogged down and wore out before the end of the day just by carrying all this gear around. He had 3 times more gear than he needed to hunt where he was.
Right. I love hunting with those guys.
You see what I mean?
Oh, they crack me up. Yeah.
We're talking about all these different factors that are all involved in paying your dues. You got to be a good detector operator. You got to be a good recoverer. You got to be a good researcher. All of these things, when you get all of these little elements that come together, then you end up being an awesome hunter. I should say finder.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. That's funny you mentioned that because I've hunted with some guys that, even a backpack and a pouch and all this stuff. And when I'm field hunting in the woods the fields and woods, here's what I've got. I've got a hand digger in my back pocket. My phone, of course, I've got the extra pockets is up in my upper pocket. I've got a bottle of water in one of my back pockets. My other digger on the other side. All my bibs have the hammer hook. That's where my pinpointer goes. And I've got my metal detector and full-size shovel in those kind of places, if I've got a full-size shovel.
Gotcha.
But, I've hunted with guys who have a big pouch around, and then they've got a backpack on. And they're less than 50 yards, 100 yards from the car.
Yeah. There you go.
If I'm gonna go out, if I'm gonna go out through a field that's muddy and I'm gonna be, a quarter of a mile away or something, that's like walking 5 miles. I might take a bag with some batteries and different things and make sure, a couple bottles of water to take a break. If I'm gonna be way out there away from my vehicle. But when you're within 50 yards, 100 yards of your vehicle, you don't need all that.
Good point, Mike. And we're talking about efficiency. See, that's another thing because, like I said, at the end of the day, if you wear yourself out carrying too much gear and you have to quit an hour earlier than you would have, you may have robbed yourself some good finds because, generally speaking, over the course of time, your best finds are going to come towards the end of your hunt rather than at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even losing an hour because you were inefficient in the way you approached, your field work is going to cost you over. And if you keep doing it over several years, that could add up to, say, for example, you losing 200 or 300 silver coins that you would have had otherwise. People don't think about the long-term effects, of sloppy or inefficient, detecting work. So I mean, you got to know, like you said, if you specialize, if you say, I'm a nugget hunter and that's all I'm ever going to be, well, then you need to get a nugget hunting metal detector, not an all-around metal detector.
Right. Right.
But if you're going to hunt nuggets. Well, like, for example, I hunted gold nuggets in New Mexico last fall. I'm not going to go buy a nugget detector just so I could go out there for 2 weeks and hunt nuggets. If I was going to move out there, I'd buy a nugget detector because that's what I'd be doing. But I used my Garrett AT Pro, and it worked, quite well for the conditions. I did find a little gold, not enough to retire on, but then again, I'm already retired, so I don't have to worry about that, do I?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Enjoyed the experience. I had a lot of fun, and it's the same thing. Like I said, I'm really interested in some of these new detectors, and I've got my eye on one. It looks like it's going to be economical enough that I might want to work one of these into the budget. But quite frankly, I've only had this AT Pro about a year, and the weather has been so awful, so much rain, and then all this incredible heat. I've only been able to get out about 1/4 of the hours that I usually spend metal detecting due to the weather. So I don't feel like I've maxed out on the capabilities of this machine yet. I want to know, exactly the limits of what it will do. And, I got into a famous house site on a big battlefield that had been a field hospital, and at some point after the war it burned down. And, a burned down house site, that burning mineralizes the soil where the house burns. So that adds a problem in detecting it. And this one had the most iron junk of any house site I'd ever encountered. And I was using the AT Pro, and I was hunting all day long. and I hadn't dug one non-ferrous target. I was hunting in what's called zero mode, or you might say all metal mode. And I could not pick up a non-ferrous target. So finally, I got into the last hour before I was going to quit, and I switched it to coin mode. Not something I would usually do on a Civil War site because I want the iron relics too. But there was just too much iron. I'm talking about it was inches. The signals were inches apart over the whole site. And when I switched to coin mode, lo and behold, non-ferrous targets started jumping out of the ground. I dug 13 non-ferrous targets in a row. The first 12 were junk. The 13th was a U.S. Eagle breastplate. That was my last find of the day. So I learned something about my detector. You know, I experimented, and the experiment paid off. And I know now how to go through a site like that. If I don't have the time to dig every piece of iron on the site because there's several thousand pieces, then I'm going to hunt it in coin mode and see if I can pick out some of the non-ferrous signals.
Mm-hmm. We're getting feedback here and there. You sound kind of rough tonight. I think that storm, we were doing pretty good till that storm. You were talking about not getting out. I don't even remember the last time I've gotten out. We've been close to 100, I would say, for almost 2 months, and it has just been miserable. It's 100 degrees, I believe, right now.
Oh, yeah, but Mike, having spent 20 years in Texas, I can tell you, buddy, when that temperature drops off, you can hunt all winter without freezing your ears off.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's a plus. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the weather to die down here a little bit. It's been kind of miserable not being able to get out and detect. Well, you know, like, I mean, literally by 9 o'clock, it's just too hot. It's getting too hot to do anything. I don't know how people do it that work out in this stuff.
I guess when you're younger, you adapt to it because I started my landscape business in Dallas, and, I worked outside installing landscaping, which is hard physical labor, for, 15 years down there. And I remember working many a day. It was 105 degrees. And a lot of times we didn't have any shade to work in. But, I never was overcome with heat or had anybody on my crew overcome with heat. We all, I guess, were young and tougher then. But I'll tell you what, I couldn't do that now. If I went out there and tried that, I'd be dead of heat stroke in about 2 or 3 hours, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's rough, man. It's not my thing, but so it's been rough. I'm looking forward to fall for sure.
Absolutely. So, and also too, for the old guys out there, you really can teach an old dog new tricks. And one of the things that we've learned from some of the old guys on our group, and I found out that I have been making, and this is embarrassing to admit, folks, but I'm going to admit it. I've been making a serious mistake in my hunting of these sites, in that while I've been turning my sensitivity down on the heavily trashed sites, I have not been going over them with the sensitivity turned way down. And it turns out from what we're learning from the guys that do that can be a real key to some good finds on those sites. So this old dog has learned a new trick, and I am champing at the bit to get out to some of my house sites as soon as the beans get harvested this fall, the soybeans, get out to my field sites and get back on those heavily trashed sites and turn that sensitivity down and see what comes out.
Yes, that's very good. That's very very solid, good advice, and especially in iron, especially in fields. Where you got all that heavy iron. When you're in those fields, usually your stuff is pretty shallow anyhow. Your problem isn't getting to the depth, and that the problem is getting through the iron.
Yeah.
So that's something I've known for a long time and passed along. Matter of fact, there's going to be an article about that in the next coming Dirt Digest magazine issue. Which is funny because I was already working on that when I seen that post, but that was brilliant and needed to be said. He went into a lot of detail, and that was very interesting. But I agree with that 100%. And I'll tell you something else. I know people get so tired of me saying it. I'm sure. Give me an analog detector and heavy iron. I'll take it all day long over the most expensive digital detectors. They handle the iron better. And I've used cheap analog detectors, beginner analog detectors, all the way to high-end analog detectors, and give me, Tesoro's now out of business. Give me a compadre for those fields of Ohio. I'll take that over the most expensive digital detectors. And I've hunted. I haven't used every detector, and especially not every current detector, but I've hunted with a lot of them, or next to guys with them, or I've used them, just about all of them, and none of them impress me in that heavy iron you're going to find in those field sites. And I think that's something, if you're going to get into the fields a lot this fall, I think you ought to reach out to Keith and see what he's got in a cheap analog detector.
Mike, let me ask you some personal advice here, and maybe all can get benefit from it. I have a Fisher 1260X, and I have a CJ5. CJ6.
Did you say a CJ5?
Is that what it is? I think it's a CJ6. Fisher came out with their first detectors that had the analog meters that, the needle told you what kind of a target you'd found.
I think you're talking CZ6.
You're right. Old man's memory. I apologize. CZ6. I have a CZ6 and I have a 1265, 1266X. I'll get it right. Are you familiar with either of those detectors?
Yeah, a little bit.
Would you say they qualify in terms of what you're talking about in the way of analogs for the iron sights?
Boy, it's been a lot of years since I had a 1266X, and I want to say that's a pretty good detector. The CZ6, CZ5. I knew somebody with a CZ5 done real good coin hunting. I don't think that's a real good relic detector. I'll tell you what. Let me pop. Yeah, we got. Hey, George, get serious for a second. He's in chat. George, would you recommend either one of those for relic hunting? A Fisher 1266X or CZ6? Would either one of them do good? And I'm going to guess the 1266X. If I remember right, that's known as a relic detector.
It is. I found thousands of artifacts or Civ War artifacts with the 1266. I was told that the CZ6 would go deeper, so I acquired one from somebody who wanted to get rid of it at the right price. But it's not lived up to the depth on coins and things that that it was hyped at.
I've hunted with somebody with a CZ5 that could get really good depth on coins, and by looking at that meter, could tell you what he was going to dig. Those CZs are pretty good machines. for sure. But I know the CZ's more as a coin detector than a relic hunter. But I want to say the 1266 is a known relic machine, and I'm pretty sure I've had one of those, but it's been so long ago. And if I remember right, I didn't know about Keith then. And as I recall, I used it to relic hunt a few times, and then it started going haywire, and I had other coils for it. But it wasn't with the coils, so I ended up, I took it in on trade with a couple different detectors and ended up just tossing it, which I wish I'd known about Keith back then. But I did not, and so from what I remember, it was pretty darn good. But it's been so long. We'll wait for.
Has George got a comment on that?
No, he's talking about cars and everything else right now.
Oh,
hopefully he's still listening. Come on, George. We need answers. Yeah, I think that 1266 will do you pretty good.
I think that's probably correct. It was been a very good detector for me, and it's very comfortable to use too. I like that about it. But I don't know. Of course, I invested a lot of my life, as it were, in Garrett and used Garrett detectors and found thousands of artifacts and coins with Garrett detectors, tens of thousands of coins. But I switched to the Fisher because at the time the Fisher was just outdoing the Garretts so bad. But with the Garrett AT Pro, the pendulum's kind of swung back the other way. And, I don't go out feeling like I don't have enough detector because it is producing for me, on the relic sites that have been worked hundreds of times by other people.
Well, the detector master has spoken, and he said the CZ6 great on saltwater beaches.
Okay.
He said the 1266 it's great on deep plow points when you think it's a plate. So it must like iron a lot, is what I'm gathering from that. Okay, yeah, he's saying neither real good for that. I know the 1266 has a reputation, but I trust George over other people. You can get at least you have some trade value. If you wanted to get rid of them, you could get you a good analog field detector or another detector of some sort. I'm sure that somebody would trade, probably. That's
not a problem. I can work a deal with Keith on a Tesoro or something. I was just wondering if what I had, would work without me having to go any further. But if there's something, if I need to do a little change there, sure.
Yeah. I just the Tesoros I know, and they're simple and easy. I've seen I wouldn't quite recommend it. I'd get some. I really like my Outlaw. My Outlaw I knew was about 450 with 3 coils and 3 shafts. You could get it for right around $525. That's a nice setup for me. It's got all the coils I need, the shafts, it's already mounted on the shaft. But I've got the Mojave right now. Scott's in there, says he's got 2 Tesoros for trade or buy. What do you got, Scott? I forget. You've got I know he's got the Silver UMax, which I don't know how that would perform in fields. But Keith would know.
Yes, he would. Absolutely.
The Vaquero. Now, the Vaquero, I got to make sure. I get them confused. I think the Vaquero, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't the Vaquero have the real fine ground balance adjustment? I would stay away from that for field hunting, particularly if that's the one I'm thinking of. I get them so confused sometimes. Yeah, it's a great detector, but it's got a real fine adjustment, and without modding it, it can be a pain in the ass, and the pain in the butt, excuse me. It's a good one, don't get me wrong, but people either love it or they hate it. And a lot of people that field aren't a big fan. I think they're better suited for mineralized soil. I think it's a good one. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I think that one, we'll talk to Keith and we'll figure something out. I've got, I don't know if you can pick up a Mojave. That's a great that's just a simple, easy turn on and go, but gets the job done as long as you're not in mineralized soil. And I don't think there in Kentucky you got any mineralized soil, do you?
Oh, yeah.
Not real bad, though. Not like Virginia or anything, right?
Well, actually, you've got eastern Kentucky and the coal fields and all that area. And wherever you've got coal, you've got mineralized soil. So there are pockets. There's an awful lot of good soil here. The soil where I live right now is really good. The minerals are about, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, the minerals here would be about 3, 3.5.
Okay. Yeah, I would stick with a simple, I would just stick with something simple then. You could pick something up for next to nothing. You keep your eyes out, and you got trade value that I'm sure Keith would be interested in. Those are both very well-known detectors. So.
Yeah. So, okay. Listen, I'm a little bit curious, Mike. What are you hearing about the, if you don't mind, I don't want to jump too far off our subject here, but, I'm hearing the rumbles, as it were. It's like putting your ear to the rails and hearing the train coming. Mm-hmm. You want to be sure to move your head before it gets there. But so this Noctamacro Simplex, is it really going to be a high performer for the low price that I hear they're going to put on it?
I don't like to. There's people right now saying, it's going to be a great detector, this and that. Everything is pointing to it being a great detector. It's a good, for a single frequency, it's 12 kilohertz. That's a great place to be. It has iron audio, which is an awesome feature. So what you do, let's say you're hunting in a field with a lot of iron. When you're using a digital detector, especially, you really start, when you start running discrimination, you really start to slow the processor down. When you have iron volume, you can run it wide open, no discrimination, and turn down your iron volume so it's a whisper. And it just makes listening to everything so much better. It's waterproof up to like 10 foot. It's wireless capable at 330, I think 335, somewhere right in there. You get the wireless headphones. I've got their wireless headphones. They're awesome. The big double D coil. One thing that I feel is holding it back right this minute is they're not offering other coils for it at this time. I want to know if they're going to offer other coils. It also has ground balance, manual. You can manually ground balance it, which is huge at that price range. Usually, it's it's a set ground balance, and at that price, that is an absolutely awesome feature. So everything is pointing to just an incredible detector. And I believe they will come out with some coils for it. Even if most of their detectors, they offer several different coils. Even if they just come out with 2 or 3 coils would be huge. You know, a good, maybe like a good 6x9 elliptical and a 7-inch concentric, I'd be a happy camper. But yeah, I think it's gonna change everything. I do. If it works, and it looks incredible, if it works half as good as it looks, it's going to be a huge, huge hit.
You know, Mike, I'll let you in on a couple little, they're not super classified pieces of information, but very few people, even probably George Kinsey, wouldn't know this. But when we were experimenting at Garrett back in the late 70s,
mm-hmm.
when we started building the first VLF detectors, we actually came out with a limited production of a model. It had an open center, stacked coil, had 3 coils stacked in it. And that thing would pick up a copper BB at 18 inches.
Wow.
It was so incredibly sensitive. We were never able to master, you increase sensitivity or gain, as electronics people call it, and you increase instability. And it would respond to its environment, to wet grass, to other things, the Faraday shielding that keeps wet grass from reading on most detectors. It didn't work on this thing. This thing was so too sensitive, we could not harness it. It was like, it was like trying to harness nuclear power before you've ever built a nuclear power plant. We just couldn't come up with a way to market this thing to where we wouldn't be getting constant complaints about people. Oh yeah, we had one of our field testers complain because he dug a hairpin. He dug a hairpin at something like 16 inches.
Wow.
But now listen to this. Most people don't know this, but Garrett actually built a prototype of a pulse detector back about 78. And that thing would pick up a BB air test at 4 feet. But again, it was so responsive to whatever else was around the signal you were trying to find. We couldn't figure out how to make it into a unit that the average person could use. And that's what, Garrett was trying to do. He was trying to build metal detectors that everybody could use, not just a few specialists. But I don't think that's ever been let out that the Garrett actually had a working pulse detector in 78.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, Fisher supposedly has a pulse detector coming out that has, from my understanding, discrimination. So that's supposed to work pretty good. So we'll see what that's about. But we've had some talks about Fisher on here, and not to pick on them, some other companies that we feel like haven't kept up with the times. And, that's awesome if they made a pulse induction, but, at the low price range I've heard, I don't see them getting a lot of sales. Time will tell and we'll see, but I'm not seeing a bunch of excitement going around, but maybe they have something if it has pretty decent discrimination. But I've also been told you can't get a pulse induction give out good, that performs well with discrimination. It really can't be done. So I don't know, but I'd be curious what that's about and see, but I don't know.
The Garrett engineers back in the late 70s were desperately trying to figure out a way to put discrimination on the pulse unit, our prototype. But of course, that was long before microprocessors were available. There's a lot of things that can be done in electronics now that couldn't be done then. But that's been the big bugaboo on pulse machines. And there's been rumors over the years that, so-and-so's coming out with a unit with discrimination. And it is one of the most difficult problems facing metal detector engineers, and it has been forever.
Yeah. I'm sorry. My chat shut down, and I'm trying to get caught up here, make sure I didn't miss anything. I'm not sure what George is talking about coil. I'm guessing he's talking about the coil on that new Fisher. Katie says they need purple detectors. I agree. Maybe some pink. Steph likes pink. Steph's told me I need to make her a pink shaft for her metal detector. But yeah, I agree. I think they should. A lot of women are getting into this hobby, and I think it's just growing, and I'd love to see some custom stuff for women. I'd love it. But
I thought somebody came out with a pink camouflage unit.
none of the major manufacturers that I'm aware of have.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure you can buy some Chinese-made detector that's pink or purple.
Yeah, maybe Cabela's has it.
Maybe.
Oh, okay. Well, I had the honor of bringing out the first metal detector in the whole United States that had camouflage colors back in 1980. It was a Detect Relic King.
Huh.
And it was the first one painted in camouflage colors. Everybody was all bent out of shape over, if we make a detector with camouflage colors, it's going to make us look like that, we want to break the law, that we're using camouflage because we have something to hide. Of course, now that argument's completely gone by the wayside, but anyway, it was kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically, the reason for camouflage for a hunter, the legitimate reason, is really brought out by this true story. A friend of mine in Virginia found a really great unworked Virginia Confederate camp. And he got in there with his big deep seeker with his 14-inch coil, which is white. And he's about 30 feet off the road in a band of woods. And he dug 6 Virginia State Seal belt plates, each one of them worth thousands.
Wow.
So he's all excited. This was his first day. So I guess he had to do something for a day or two. But what he didn't know was a guy driving by happened to see that white coil swinging back and forth in the woods. The white color caught his eyes. And he was an outlaw relic hunter. And he went back and told his club.
Oh, no.
And so the guy comes out a day or two later, and there was over 20 people on the site without permission. And they had already pulled out nearly 24 more Virginia State Seal belt buckles.
Oh, I probably would have went on a shooting. Nah, I shouldn't say that.
No,
I'd have been mad. I would have been very mad.
I'll tell you this: for the rest of his metal detecting life, that fella wore full camouflage and hand painted all of his detectors, camouflage colors.
Don't blame him.
Wasn't, he was legitimate. He always got permission and everything, but he was doing it to protect himself from being spotted by the outlaw hunters when he was near a road or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, there's definitely people out there like that. It's a shame.
Absolutely. I lost a really big sight because my hunting partner decided to move out of town, and before he left, he told the whole treasure hunting club exactly where we were hunting was, and I lost 2 years of good relic hunting because over In fact, 22 members of the club started hunting my site.
Oh, no. Oh, that would make me mad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, this is part of when we old guys say we've been there, done that. We've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we've usually been victimized several times by trusting people, and sharing sites with them. So if we're a little bit suspicious or slow to take you to our best sites, you should understand why. We've been burned.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of that, we've all been there. Bill told me a good story. I'm not going to repeat it because I don't know who the guy was or anything else, but he had somebody following him around and going back, and it happens to a lot of us, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah. It does. And, you always have a certain element in any subculture. It doesn't matter, not just metal detecting. It could be in bottle collecting. It could be, just whatever you want to name. Yeah. But there's always a small percentage of people that don't want to play by the rules.
I know years ago that forum I was telling you about, there was a guy, he was on the East Coast somewhere, and he'd found just a real hot spot where I want to say an old bridge went across or something. I don't recall. But he was finding, turn of the century coins and that kind of stuff. And he took a guy out there, and the next thing you know, that guy, not only was he going out there all the time, he was taking people, and it ended up in a big, right on the forum fight kind of thing. And you got to be real careful. For somebody new, here's something we can talk about. Some etiquette for people new to the hobby. If you're newer to the hobby, well, let me tell you this. When I talk to somebody, rarely is there anybody I'm going to take to one of my hot spots. If Dorian I would, George Kinsey, if I get him back to Ohio, I'd happily do it. But, if you contact me, anybody that contacts me and I don't know them and they say, I'd love to hunt with you, I'd come to your spot or something like that, or that, they'll say something along them lines. I'm trying to think. That it's funny because they almost always say the exact same thing. I'd love to come hunt with you at one of your spots or something along those lines. I can tell you right now, I won't take you hunting. Now, if you say, hey, I'd love to hunt with you, maybe we could meet somewhere mutual, or, hey, I'd love to hunt with you, I'll have you out at my spot, I'll go. But usually the people who say, hey, I'd love to come hunt with you, you got a spot, or, they'll ask if you got a spot to go to or something, I'll stay away from those people. They're usually fishing. They hunt other people's spots. They don't take people to their spots, and I'm just not going to do that. Now, the thing is, if you invite me to one of your spots, unless you're an absolute, something isn't right, I'll take you to my spots. I might not take you to my best spots starting out, but, we can work up to that. But I absolutely, if somebody says that, hey, I'd love to hunt with you sometime, I'd love an invite, or, I'd love to hunt one of your spots with you, that's a huge red flag to me. So if you're new to the hobby, talk about mutual ground. Hey, maybe we could meet at a park or something. I know this park. You don't have to invite and give up your good spots, but when you ask to go hunt on their spot, that's a red flag for me.
Yeah, we have that problem in the group. We have guys that want in the group. We let them in. The first thing they do is, anybody got any permissions in North Carolina? Anybody got any permissions here and there? Well, when that happens, I can become a prophet. I can predict to you that these people will not contribute anything because they're takers and not givers. When they start off in the group like that, they don't last long, because I know they're not going to be participators. They have nothing to give. They're only interested in taking from you. So, when that happens, they go on a red flag list, and we watch them. I watch them very carefully. I go to their Facebook page, and I, check out what's on their Facebook page. Like one guy's asking for, somebody to provide a place where he can take his wife and his child on their first relic hunt. And you go to his Facebook page, he's got all kinds of pictures of him and his buddies digging Civil War relics. So why does he need somebody else to, provide a place where his wife and daughter can go on their first relic hunt?
Yeah. There's people like that, and you got to be really cautious. Bill and I were talking about somebody recently that's kind of hit us both up like that, and I'd brought it up to Bill, and Bill doesn't have a bad word to talk about anybody, but I'd kind of mentioned him, and I said, he approached me that way, and it's, there's no way I'm going to hunt with him. Last time I was in Ohio, I met up with Tom Dunn, and Tom contacted me. Well, he listens to the podcast and things, and him and I had talked on the phone, and he said, "Hey, Mike, I'd love to have you down here to hunt with me when you're in Ohio." Well, I didn't want to go down there, but he started that conversation off right. He invited me to one of his spots, so I took a chance, and I invited him to one of my spots, and I have nothing but good to say about him. I had Matt down. I know if I went up to Northeast Ohio, the problem is when I come back to Ohio, I get as much detecting in as I can, but I got to spend time with family. And it's hard for me I don't want to drive. I don't want to waste a couple of hours driving out of my day. I want to go metal detecting. That's time I can be in the field metal detecting, so I really don't like to do that. And so I invited those guys down. But, at that last time I went back, I also had this person who found out I was coming back and messaged me and said, "Hey, I'd love to come hunt with you. You got any spots lined up or something like that?" And it's just like, yeah, man, I'll get a hold of you when I come back. I'm not reaching out to that person. They don't even listen to the podcast. They don't, they just happen to see that, I know he's heavily involved in the Ohio metal detecting, doesn't listen to the podcast. We've never talked on the phone. We've never, nothing. And he's inviting himself on my hunt. No deal.
Yeah, good point. But you were talking about, you used the word etiquette a while ago. The proper etiquette is if you want to hunt with somebody who's a so-called treasure hunting personality, whether it's the one and only Mike Hare or the old decrepit geezer Dorian Cook. The proper procedure is you invite us to come hunt with you, and then we come and hunt with you, and then you will find that we will reciprocate and invite you to come and hunt with us.
Yeah, or meet on mutual ground. Go meet at a park and just have some fun and get to know each other. I'm down with that. But there's a guy here. He's really busy. He just had a kid. He's really busy with work and stuff. He's invited me on a few different of his sites, and what I told him is, hey, I'd love to. Well, and I'm busy too. I can only go when Steph's home and stuff with the kids, and our schedules haven't lined up. But he invited me right away to one of his sites, and I said, man, I would love that. And I'll tell you what, anything I find, you're more than welcome to it. Put it in a collection with the rest of the stuff you found from that site. I'm not greedy, but if you're going to invite me to your site, I'll give you everything I find, or let's meet on mutual ground. I'm good with that. Let's get to know each other. And that's what we did the first time we met.
Wow. Hey, Mike, can you be here tomorrow?
and help you hunt a site.
Yeah, if you're going to give me everything, that means if two of us hunt this site I got in mind, I'll have twice as much at the end of the day. Oh, I'm just joking.
Right. No, I don't care. Dorian, I'm at the point where, I've given so much of my stuff. I don't have much of a collection, and I'm okay with that. I wish I had the pictures. I've lost so much on computers over the years that I wish I had the pictures, but I don't miss the finds. If I can leave it with the homeowner and the homeowner loves it and loves the history of their house, to me it belongs there. The relics out of that farmer's field, and he knows what was there, and it's second, third, fourth generation, and he appreciates it. I don't need to take it home. I don't have that. If you keep your stuff in display cases and all together from the same site, and you've got a site that you'll take me to that you've got a good collection already built up, yeah, I'd rather give it to you than haul it around, Dorian. That's just how I am.
Well, okay, Mike, I'm gonna put you on the hot spot here.
Okay.
All right. You're hunting John Doe's property, and you told him you're going to give him whatever you find, and you dig a 1776 pewter Continental dollar that's going to book at about $185,000. What do we do now?
Well, unfortunately, I would have to stick with because if I said it, I mean it. It would break my little heart. But going into that, there is an understanding. Hey, if something is really valuable, we split it, or something like that. Yeah, I'm not gonna come hunt your site and find a coin worth $500,000 and hand it over without us. But I'm going to go into it like that as well, ahead of time. Hey, if we find something crazy, that you bring up a good point. All of that needs to be discussed beforehand. I know people who split their hunting. If they find anything worth over $100 and they decide, they have a price. I don't know what it is. I want to say it's over $1,000. They decide to split it and sell it. Now, here's my thought. If you and I go into a place together that we both worked on getting permission or researched, or you got the site, but I get sites for us, you're somebody I hunt with on a regular basis, then my thing is going to be you find what you keep and I'll find what I keep. You know what I mean? And I don't care if you find a coin worth $1 million. You found that. That's how I like to do it. I don't want to. What happens if we find? Let's say if we find something worth over $1,000. That is a lot of money to me, but it might have such historical significance. I would never sell it, and you want to sell it. You're asking for trouble. If it's your hunting partner, you do what you want to do, but he gets your sites, you get him sites or her sites. I feel like you guys should keep what you find. That's my opinion, but you work it out ahead of time. If it is on one of your sites, the last thing you want to see is somebody dig something of significant value and you guys didn't work something out. Do you agree with that?
Right now I'm working on a project involved. Yeah, I do, but I'm going to ask you another question in a moment, but I want to make a comment first. I'm working on a project right now that involves 1,200 missing, brand new at the time, Springfield Civil War rifles. Okay. I believe they were thrown into a body of water. I think I know where it's at, and I've got a partner in this. We're going to go magnet fishing for these lost guns. Okay. And if we're successful, we're going to we're working on an agreement so that each one of us will keep 3 or 4 of the best rifles, and then the rest we're going to pool and sell and split the profits.
Okay.
Is the way we've chosen to do it. Now,
Dorian, hold on.
If I've got a magnet, he's got a magnet, and I pull up one rifle, and he pulls.
Hey, Dorian, you're cutting out real bad.
Okay. Let me see what I can do here.
Yep. You're so bad we can't.
Can you hear me now?
You're sounding way better now.
Okay. I've raised up my computer, and I'm getting more signal through the window here. If I can keep it. Are we still okay?
Yep. We're good.
Okay. So, anyway, if my partner pulls up 2 rifles and I pull up 18, we're going to basically pool, we're going to split to 20 rifles in terms of what we get for them, you see.
Yeah.
Because that's not like where we're both in a field. And, if we were hunting a field for artifacts, he keeps what he finds and I keep what I find. But when we're working that's what I call a treasure recovery project. It has the potential to put more than just a few dollars in our pockets.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I look at that, those treasure recovery projects provide funds that allow me to travel and work on other treasure recovery projects.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, here's a question I wanted to propose to you. What do you think? Let's say you make a deal with a coin or with a landowner. You got an old house site, dates 1700s, and the guy says, I've lived here, my family's lived here for 3 generations, and nobody's ever had a metal detector on the place. And so you cut a deal with him to split whatever you find.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say you go out and you work this house site, and you find, you find, say, 40 coins. And they're a little bit of everything, large cents, half dimes, old coins, really nice ones. And now you have to split these 40 coins with this landowner. What is the most equitable way to make a split, since the coins have different values? I don't want to put you on the spot too much. I'm going to share with you what we've come up with as the absolute most equitable way to handle that. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
If you want to take a shot at it, go ahead. But then I'll tell you what we came up with.
Well, I think you could do it a number of ways. Does the value matter to you? You let him pick what he wants then, or you go through and you give some of the prices and you say, I'm planning on selling mine, or however you want to do. You just got to work it out to where everybody's happy. And I think that can go different ways. You might find a coin that really sticks out to him that's not worth anything, but that's what he wants. I'm just not,
all right.
It's why I'll never be rich. I'm not a greedy person,
Sure.
But, tell me how you would do that.
Okay. I think you're going to love this. One of the 2 people, and you give the landowner the choice. He can divide the coins up into 2 piles, 20 coins in each pile, and you get first choice of the pile.
Yep, I've done that privy digging with bottles. That's perfect. Yep, absolutely.
Or, if he says, I want first choice of the pile, then you divide the coins up, and he makes the first choice of the pile. Now you both have a reason to want to be as fair about it as you can.
Mm-hmm. That is brilliant. Or draw straws, and then that person goes first and they pick a coin. Then you pick a coin. Then they pick a coin. Then you pick a coin. We've done that with privy digs.
I wouldn't do that with a landowner, because if he comes out on the short end and after you leave, he's going to start doing the slow burn, and you're going to end up, getting a bad reputation or losing your permission if you plan to come back. The only fair way to do it is for one person to divide the coins and the other person to pick a pile.
Yeah, that's a good way to go about it. Absolutely. I want to say Mike brought up another really good, Mike Fusion brought up a really good point, and I've seen this, and for those that are newer to the hobby, listen to this. If somebody invites you to a site, I've done this relic hunting, so let me kind of give you a little background story here, because sometimes we do cherry pick, but when I'm field hunting, I'm going to dig everything that's not iron. And if I invite you to go field hunting and you come in there and you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off trying to clear the coins out of there and you're missing the relics, I don't care. It's not about value or better finds, because I prefer the relics over the coins, but you're proving to me that you're greedy because you think you're getting a better deal. I'll still smoke you. You might get more coins because you're going in there cherry picking, but field sites don't have a lot of coins, and I'm going to tear you up in good relics, but it shows me that you're greedy, and I won't hunt with you. And Mike's right. That's a real good thing to look for, or if you go hunt a house site, and, I've always found more in the front yard, and if they want the front yard all the time, and they've been doing it long enough, I'm not saying I haven't had real good luck in backyards too. I'm just saying overall I do better in the front yards, and it depends on the houses. If I see them always pushing towards the better part of the site, I'm not going to hunt with you. I'm not going to continue hunting with you. If I have you on a hunt and you tell me you don't have anywhere good to go, and then you get on Facebook and you post up a bunch of good finds, and I just had you down Saturday, and then you don't have any place good to hunt up by you when we were talking about where we're going, and Sunday you post good finds from your own site, I'm not going to hunt with you again. So you really got to be careful and watch what you're doing. But yeah, Mike made an excellent point. Watch for the cherry pickers. Absolutely. But and where Dorian's going with all this, you should definitely have it worked out with the landowner, the person you're hunting with, whether they invited you or not. You should have some kind of deal worked out. Here's our expectations. Here's how it's going to go. I can tell you, if I take you somewhere and you find something really valuable, as far as I'm concerned, that's yours. That's just my opinion, unless we talk about it beforehand. If I come to your site and I say, hey, anything I find you can keep, I mean it, and Dorian, you made a really good point. Hey, if I find something from now on, I might say that same thing, but hey, if I find something really valuable, we split it or whatever, because you're right. I was setting myself up for trouble there, because how heartbreaking would that be? It'd be like handing somebody, here's $50,000.
Yeah. And I will say this: the real problems in treasure hunting start when you find a treasure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what obstacles you have in finding it. The real problems start when you find it. I had a fellow wanted to hunt caches with me. Well, a cache hunting partner is got to be top drawer. He's got to be he or she's got to be a person of integrity, honesty, and not greedy. And you have to prove them, on hunts like relic hunts and things, so you can get to know them and see what motivates them. Because I'll give you an example. I knew two guys in Dallas. One of them had worked for the CIA, and the other one had been the vice commander of the White Sands Missile Base. And they formed a treasure hunting partnership, and they hunted. They specialized in hunting stagecoach robbery loot. Wells Fargo strong boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And they hunted together as great partners for 20 years, a little over 20 years, and they actually found one. And it was full of newly minted $20 gold pieces from the San Francisco Mint. They literally had the the guy who's telling me this was the ex-vice commander of the White Sands base, and he said we had our pistols on us for rattlesnakes, and he said I actually shot the lock off the strong box. The outlaws never got it open. They hit it because the posse was about to get them, and then they had a shootout, and they were basically all killed in the shootout. So anyway, these guys actually hunted for 20 years. They finally find a strong box with $60,000 and $20 gold pieces in it. And he shoots the lock off of it, and he's down on his knees. He opens it up, and he said that the coins are still in the paper wrappers. It just crumbled to dust when you touched them. Now imagine this whole thing is full of uncirculated $20 gold pieces. And he's down on his knees in front of it, and he says, well, Fred, we finally found one. And he hears the hammer of a gun being pulled back. And he turns around and looks, and his 20-year treasure hunting buddy has this wild look in his eyes, has his gun with the hammer pulled back, cocked, ready to fire, pointed right at him, and he says, it's all mine. And he says, I got up and I walked away with my hands up in the air, and I said, okay, Fred, it's all yours. He said, I was sure he was going to kill me, and he says, I turned my back to him so that the bullets would be in my back and they would know that it wasn't self-defense when they found me. Well, the guy didn't shoot him. He let him go, but he took all of the gold. So you see what I mean? The problems start when you find a treasure. They had a great time hunting together for 20 years. But even after 20 years, he did not know the man he was hunting with.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, I don't want to tell it on air, but remind me to tell you my little story. Something I found that pretty much cost a friendship, and I'll explain to you another time. But yeah, it happens over. It amazes me how it happens over something of very little value, and yet you're talking something worth a fortune. There's no doubt in my mind it can happen. Now, I don't get it. I'm not that type of person.
Are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
You're breaking up on me.
I'm wondering if I'm the listeners as well. I don't know. As far as I know, I don't have any problems. I think it's on your end. But we just lost. I
don't know if you can hear me. I've got
there you are. You there, Dorian? Okay. I think we're losing you.
I got a message. Yeah, it said I had a message that said connection lost.
Okay, we got you back. You sound real good right now.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just not who I am, but I could see that kind of thing happening. I don't know. It's kind of like serial killers. I can't wrap my mind around how somebody can murder like that and do that, just like I can't understand how you could do that to your hunting partner, or somebody that you had a deal worked out with, like that, how you could do something like that. But it takes all kinds, right?
It does. And, it's interesting because you can start out, both parties can start out actually with good intentions. I had an acquaintance, a treasure hunting acquaintance, who worked Spanish treasure projects in Texas. And he actually got on to a really good one. He got a map drawn on old deerskin that was found in a deceased guy's belongings. And he located a piece of property. And according to this map, there was a stack of gold bars hidden in a cave that they just rocked up the entrance, dry stacked rock to hide the entrance to the cave. So he went down to West Texas where this was located, and he actually got permission from the farmer who owned the land to go look for this cave. And they agreed to split the gold bars. Well, it only took him about 2 or 3 hours, and he found the cave entrance back up a little draw where hardly anybody ever went. And as soon as he pulled the rocks out, he could see the stack of gold bars. They were crude smelted. They'd been obviously being transported probably towards Mexico City, and apparently there was a threat of Indian attack, and the Mexican soldiers or Spanish soldiers that hid them. They hid them there, of course, to keep from losing them, and apparently they didn't survive the attack. So the treasure remained lost, other than the fact that one of them must have gotten away because this map existed, and it was dated like 1760 something, I think. Anyway, he finds the gold bars. He loads them up in his pickup. He drives up to the farmer's house, unloads his half of the bars, and the farmer's just perfectly happy with the split. You know, he's a man of his word. He agreed to split whatever was found. The treasure hunter was a man of his word. The farmer stacked the gold bars under his dining room table, and they shook hands and parted company. And my buddy was basically a rich man because there was about, I think there was something like, let me see if I remember the quantity right. There was over 40 bars. They got at least 20 bars apiece. Now, they weren't these big, huge, giant gold bars that you see in the movies, like Goldfinger and all that. These were, smaller bars. They were probably 2.5 inches tall, maybe 3.5 inches wide, and about 8 to 10 inches long. But that's still a lot of gold. So that very weekend, the farmer's son, who lived in Fort Worth and who was a lawyer, comes to visit his dad, and he sees this stack of gold bars under the table, and he comes unglued. Dad, where did you get all this gold? So the farmer tells him. Well, the lawyer says immediately, you got cheated. He's only entitled to a 10% finder's fee. You got cheated. Well, up to now, the farmer's been completely happy, right? Well, they took the treasure hunter to court. They had a 3-year battle, and you can imagine the legal fees. And the judge awarded the treasure hunter a 10% finder's fee. He lost 80% of his gold. They had a deal. The deal was done, and I don't know how much that crooked lawyer, son of the farmer, bribed the judge with. But my buddy came out really on the short end of that deal, and the point was, and he learned the lesson the really hard way. When you make an agreement and then you find gold bullion or silver bullion, or even silver coins in a cache, and you agree to split. You split the value, you don't split the coins or the bullion. You quietly remove the bullion and the coins off the property. You, on your own, in your own way, you convert those bullions and coins or the farmer's share or the owner's share into cash. You put it in a paper bag, and you stick it in his mailbox one night, or you mail it to him anonymously with no explanation. You never, never, never show the landowner bullion or caches of gold or silver coins. If you're smart. If you like having problems and being dragged into court and your life turning into a living hell, go on right ahead and split them. But all the guys that have learned the hard way will say amen to what I just told you.
You and I have a mutual friend, somebody that you put me in touch with, and I don't know, and I haven't asked, but I suspect he's had some issues. I can't even say that he's found a cache. I don't know. But I suspect he has, and I suspect he's ran into problems with it.
Like I said, the problems start when you find wealth.
Right. I could see that.
So you have to be extremely wise and discreet in how you deal with that if you want it to be a blessing and not a curse.
Right.
See, that's another part of paying your dues. If you're going to hunt treasure versus coins and artifacts, it's one thing to find a Virginia state steel belt buckle worth a few $1,000s. It's a whole other thing to find a cache of gold bullion worth several $100,000.
I've seen how people can act over something that's worth a few $100s. So yeah, and for the sake of the show, let's reel that in a little bit. And it goes back to whether it's your hunting partner or the landowner or whoever, make sure that there's an agreement. And stick with it. And, be careful even with, we're all excited when we find something good. And value, whether you're into it or not, to find something valuable is cool. I've done it. But be careful. Don't post something worth money. Be careful. I'm going to get off on a little tangent here and a little bit off subject. Don't keep posting your good finds on Facebook and on social media and stuff, because houses get broken into. That's a very real thing. I know a guy who had been buying and finding arrowheads since he was a young man, and lived out in the country in a nice house, had a safe. Everything was in a safe that was bolted down, a big safe. Of course, he had showed people and different things. He thought they were safe. Somebody came in broad daylight and stole the safe out of his house. So I'm just saying, be very careful. Even if it's, I found 3 silvers today, and I found this belt plate, and then a week later you post some more stuff. Well, that stuff starts to build up, and they can go back on your page or your account, whatever it is, on social media. Wow, this guy's sitting on thousands of dollars worth of stuff. You can become a target. It happens. Believe me, I know people it's happened to. It's happened to me over something that really wasn't, definitely not worth it. I don't know for a fact it was over metal detecting finds. I absolutely believe it was. There's a lot to the story I'm not going to get into tonight. But, if I would have been home, somebody would have died. Is it worth your life? For the people listening that think they're going to do that, a lot of us will, there's a lot of us out there that aren't going to tolerate that. You better plan it real good, because you don't want to catch me you don't want to catch me when I'm home. But I think when you're talking even more than a few $100s, you're better off not telling people. Even if you don't plan on selling it, whatever. Keep it, I would be real careful what you post on social media and stuff. I don't post my stuff anymore. What I post isn't much because of that reason. You got to be careful. And just like that, what I'm getting at, you can draw attention in several ways. They can be looking to rob you. You can actually have people in this hobby that'll follow you and try to go hunt your sites, find out where you're hunting. Believe me, it happens. You got to be careful drawing attention to yourself. I don't post stuff because I haven't found anything in a while, and what I do find isn't anything special. But if I did, I wouldn't be posting it up. You really got to be careful. Don't you agree, Dorian? Even little things can draw attention.
Oh yeah, and if you have a collection, you really need to store the valuable stuff off site. Don't have it at your home site. Have it somewhere where that, it's not on your property. It's not in an outbuilding. It's somewhere that, you have to drive to even get it. Because you don't want it there.
Tennessee Jeff said you got to know how to hide it. I agree, but the guy with the big safe bolted down in his house, he never thought, they come out. I believe they had to cut the floor out, and they stole his safe. We're not talking one of these cheap, $200-$300 safes. We're talking several $1,000 safe, fireproof safes. And I'd be careful, is it worth those bragging rights, to make yourself a target? And, it can happen very easily. Bill told me a story. Somebody was going back to his sites. He'd post finds and they would look in the background and stuff. I don't think Bill had found anything extraordinary in that amount of time. Maybe some silver coins, some cool relics, but over that, hey, this guy lives close to me. Hey, I recognize that in the background, and then he took notice, and then next thing you know, Bill's going back to sites he hunted 2-3 days earlier, and they're hunted. Tennessee Jeff says, don't tell no one. No, exactly. You're better off not talking about it. It's, I'm not saying you can't share it with your hunting partner of years that, has a nice collection as well. But, these people that post all this stuff on social media, I'm just saying be careful. I don't want to see it go away. I love seeing this stuff on social media. I'm just saying be careful about it.
Yeah, it's a good point. We get comfortable on social media, and I see a lot of people, not just in the field of metal detecting, but I see a lot of people that post so much personal information on their Facebook sites that should never have ever been put up there, because they're just naive. They're thinking that everybody out there is warm and fuzzy like they are, and they just don't understand that. It's just like where we live. I'm surrounded by woods. I live at the base of a big wooded mountain. And there are predators in those woods. There's black panthers, there's black bears, there's bad snakes, there's foxes and coyotes that will eat your chickens and eat your pets. There's dangers out there, and I have to be constantly aware of the fact that when I walk outside in the daylight and the early morning sun's beaming through the trees and it's just beautiful all around me, it's deceiving. It doesn't negate the fact that predators live in these woods. And so we have to be prepared to defend ourselves, and to see that they don't do us any serious damage.
Yeah, exactly. Gypsy, I don't know if you know this, Dorian. Gypsy had her collection stolen years ago. Somebody come in her house and grabbed it, and if I remember right, that's pretty much all they stole, or maybe that's all they stole. So somehow that got out to the wrong person. She was part of a club, I believe, at that time. Somebody at the club knew she was finding something. So you got to be careful. And you think, I had said that to somebody and they said, I've got guns and this and that. Well, I'll tell you, the guy who had his big safe cut out of his floor and stolen in daylight had guns as well. I had guns. When somebody was brazen enough to break into my house in broad daylight. They're lucky they caught me away. That's the only thing. But, don't think, some of these criminals are so good that if they put that kind of thinking and thought into something productive, they could be very successful people.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, it's pretty mind blowing, some of the things that people get away and steal. But I'm just saying, be careful.
And you know what, Mike? That being careful comes at the other end of paying your dues. You paid your dues, it's paid off, you've got a collection, you've got great finds. Well, that's fine. But now the last part of paying your dues is to be sure and secure yourself against being an easy mark for the very thing you're talking about.
Yep.
So, like I said, it really is when you think about it, and you look at it, it really is all about paying your dues. And what we mean, of course, by that is learning the ropes, learning what works, what doesn't work, what's safe, what isn't safe. And if you do, an exercise, as they say, due diligence, then, you're going to have a lot of great experiences. But you're still going to have a few negative ones along the way, too, because that also is part of paying your dues.
Absolutely. Folks, be careful. I've known too many people it's happened to, and I'll tell you, if I ever find anything of value again, nobody will know. I mean, Dorian, I could tell you, and you could tell somebody that you've known for 20 years and would never think would say anything, and the next thing you know, I'm a target. It's not worth it. It's just not, guys. Be careful. Watch even posting your stuff on Facebook, even your stuff that's not valuable. I notice, like, I'll notice patterns, like, this person posted, you see a post every 2 or 3 a week, and it's more stuff. And it got me thinking, like, wow, this guy's found a lot this last month and keeps posting 2, 3, 4 posts of these killer finds. And in my head, I don't know him. They're just, we follow each other on Facebook, and I think, my goodness, somebody needs to tell him, be careful. I don't know him to tell him that, but I want to say, hey, you just got to be careful with that. If you go back and look at your pictures, okay, you've not found anything of any extreme value, but it all adds up.
Yep. Well, that's right.
Dorian, you about ready to, let's get to wrapping this up. I have, we've been at it too. We started a half an hour early, and we've been sitting here at the same place. I'm ready to get up and do some moving and that kind of stuff. And yeah.
Okay. All righty.
You got anything you want to add or that you wanted to bring up?
Well, I guess if there's a final thought here on this, it's that just like the weather, every hunter is going to have a dry spell every now and then. You're going to have a little drought. I had a silver drought that lasted 2 long years. And when it finally ended, and it only ended because I didn't give up. I just kept going out and kept hunting and not finding silver. Finally, when it broke, I found silver on 11 hunts in a row. And that's just the way it is sometimes. There are droughts, and there are times when it seems like you can do no wrong. You go out, and almost every site you hit, you got goodies coming out. But the big thing is, it takes hanging in there. It takes perseverance, and it takes getting out and swinging that detector.
Mm-hmm. Something I absolutely I agree 100%. And I want to kind of, my final thought here is, we've been having Jeff and Katie and listening to the show now for a good several times, and I want to speak to them, but also anybody else new to the hobby. It is hard at first until you start finding the good stuff, and it takes time, but believe me, it's out there. Keep learning your detector, keep digging. It comes. Believe me, you guys are in a great part of the country. You're surrounded by awesome coins and relics. It just takes time to learn your detector and find the right kind of spots. keep talking to people, don't be afraid to ask questions, and you'll get there. I think the hardest thing, you're right, there's dealers and stuff who don't take the time, but the hardest thing is for somebody new, getting your swing down and understanding your detector enough to make good finds and how to deal with trashy sites and stuff like that. And once you get some time under your belt, the finds will really start coming. So don't be impatient. Just know you got to pay your dues, put the work in, and it'll happen. It will happen.
Couldn't agree more. That's what it's all about. And look, guys. If most of you are a lot younger than I am, I'm pushing 72, and I haven't lost any of my passion for metal detecting. I'm still excited about it. I have a bucket list. There's things I want to find before I hang it up for good, or life hangs me up for good, whichever comes first.
Yeah.
But the point is, this is something that gives pleasure and satisfaction and a sense of accomplishment for an entire lifetime if you stay in it. If you pay these dues and you get to that point, like Mike says, where the good finds start coming, you're going to find it was well worth your perseverance and your effort and all those pull tabs and things you dug that you didn't want to dig, but you did. We've all been there, done that, but we've also, those of us who have stayed involved, have done well.
Absolutely. I want to say Bill said stick to it. About a year from now, it'll just click one day. I think Bill's on the right track, but find people in your area that will hunt with you, who will take you under your wing, and you're talking, they will take months off of that learning curve. Get with Matt, who would be more than happy to get with you guys. He's got an ORX. He'll find stuff and compare signals, that kind of thing, and he will take so much time off that learning curve. Tennessee Jeff says, look for all the old springs. I have never hunted around a spring where you're not going to find something. Springs were, they say the rivers and creeks were the highways in the day, and I totally agree. The problem with creeks and rivers are they often flood. Stuff gets, there's modern trash pushed up inland and stuff, and they can be really hard to hunt. You find an old spring where a spring was on an 1800 map or wherever, you're going to find something, because people traveling camp there, often military. Those were hot spots. I don't know of a spring in Ohio, not like I know them all, but the ones I know of, I don't know of one that wasn't very significant. So yeah, that's a very good, that's a great tip.
It is. Yeah. And I even, one time, I even dug a Model T spring in the spring. I really did.
That's funny. Model T spring at the spring.
Yep.
Yeah, Bill's got a good one. Look, one contour line up from a water source. Yep. For sure. That's a great one. Bill says he generalizes a lot. I understand, Bill. But yeah, it might not be a year. It might be 6 months. He's just generalizing. What I'm saying, whether that's a year or 6 months or 2 months, get with somebody local who's a good detectorist that'll help you enough that they will shave so much time off that learning curve. Yep. So there you go. Bill says folks knew where the flood line was just as we do today. True. But also people weren't real smart sometimes. I know of a whole town site that was moved, well, several, because they were too close to the water. So not always. I know of one of the earliest settlements in an area. that they moved it after roughly 3 years because it kept flooding. Well, duh, you're right on the river in a low spot. So, yeah, that overall, Bill is right, but it's not. I mean, you're going to find 9 out of 10 places are higher up off the water, but don't be surprised when you find one that's not high up off the water. So, yeah, Bill, I'm not even talking about that site as I was talking about it. Thinking that one site, that one popped in my head, but I'm talking about a whole nother site. But yeah, too funny. But all right, why don't you send us off? Wait.
Oh, I was going to say we'll give Bill a treasure lead here. Okay.
Okay.
There's a little town on the Ohio River called Warsaw, Kentucky. You can Google it, Warsaw, Kentucky, and right behind the courthouse, out in the river, 2 steamboats collided. And if you can believe this, one was the United States and one was the America.
Huh.
They collided, burned, and sank, and there were at least 3 safes between the 2 of them. One of them was full of, I think, silver coins being transported. And this happened back in the 1800s. I'm forgetting the date now. But I know I found out about it back in the 80s, and I know there has been absolutely no modern attempt to recover those safes. They're still there in that river. And I think the river is about 30 to 35 feet deep there.
Wow.
So there's your bona fide treasure lead.
Wow. How cool would that be?
Yeah, and sometime, you know what we ought to do, Mike? We ought to do a program, and we ought to talk about, famous treasure stories. I've had, for anybody who might be aware, there's a famous set of silver mines called the John Swift Silver Mines. And I worked that project for nearly 30 years, and I found 4 of his 6 silver mines.
Wow.
There's quite a story there. I wrote about it in my book on Volume 2, Heroes and Hostiles. But anyway, maybe we ought to take a show and just talk about, real big treasures and
Let's do it. I would love. I would love for you to go over some that you believe are fiction and different ones you don't believe and why, and kind of break down some of the different treasure leads. I'd love that.
Yeah, we can do that, and I'll be happy to share some tips along the way that I learned when I was being mentored by some professional treasure hunters that I met at Garrett's.
Yeah.
You talk about a skilled profession. It really is. There's surprises. One of the surprises, I'll just give you a little teaser. I found that the guys who make a good living, better than good living at treasure hunting, they told me that they only found a cache on the average of about 1 every year and a half, and that everything else in between was empty holes. Now, how's that for perseverance?
Right. Yeah, I don't know if I got it in me.
Yeah, it takes a special kind of person to hunt treasure professionally and do good at it. One thing I liked about all of those that I met, they were all characters. They weren't plastic people. They had great personalities. They were interesting. They had stories galore. You love to spend time with them. You love to sit around the campfire. I'd like to go out thinking that people regarded me as one of those people. I wouldn't feel a bit bad about being seen in that light, because they were really, truly a great bunch of people. And 8 out of 10 of the professional trainers were people that were utterly trustworthy and honest and not greedy of money. They were doing signs in the discovery.
Yeah. Jeff,
so anyway, I think we might have a good program there.
Jeff made an awesome suggested something really awesome. He said we should end each show on a treasure lead.
We can do that.
How cool would that be?
We can do that. Yeah, and I love it because you know what? That's an innovation. I've never seen anybody do that.
No, I think it's a great idea. Let's do it. Let's do it, Dorian. Let's get off of here. We're 2.5 hours in, and we've actually been sitting on the phone for 3 hours, and I am ready. Unfortunately, I can't do things like get up and go get water or use the bathroom while we're on the podcast. So I'm overdue for all of the above, and let's call it a night. But I had fun doing this show. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Hope the audience enjoyed it as much as we did.
Hopefully, probably. If not, they enjoyed talking in chat, I think.
There you go. Well, and thanks for all the comments, guys.
Absolutely.
And again, once again, thanks for that suggestion. We'll see if we can't give you some kind of a treasure lead every week.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. Great idea. So we'll do that. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we're sure glad you did, and we'll be back next week.
Well, good night, everybody.
Good night.